Hi, I'm Clark Venture.
And I am Harold Sterling.
Now to the news. This week, America has been gripped by the suspenseful events that have come to be known as the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, I was quite worried about the fate of the American people. Anyway, as we reported earlier this month, the Soviet Union has been attempting to expand their communist military influence by establishing a nuclear weapons program in Cuba.
The following footage is from when the conflict was just developing.
The United States arrived at the decision for an arms blockade after studying reconnaissance photographs made with high-powered cameras from planes flying several miles from the Cuban coast. These cameras are described as capable of spotting a golf ball on a putting green from 40,000 feet. Literally thousands of pictures can be made on each flight by these planes, and they are studied by photo interpreters who are capable of analyzing details that an untrained eye would miss. Here, for example, is a medium-range ballistic missile base that has been labeled by these specialists.
As you just saw, our military equipped espionage planes with advanced camera technology, which our intelligence agencies used to discover that the Soviets were supplying Cuba with short and intermediate range ballistic missiles.
Very true, Clark. Now let's go to our field reporter stationed on site in Cuba.
Hello, this is Damian Keller on scene in Havana with Cuban citizen Ernesto Rivera. Sir, what are your thoughts on Castro's involvement with the USSR?
Well, ever since Castro came into power, the tourism industry in Havana has suffered, and this socialist alliance has not helped us at all.
And what do you think the ramifications of an all-out conflict between the U.S. and the USSR would be?
I believe that it will eventually lead our great nation into ruins.
Thank you for your thoughts, Ernesto. Now back to the studio.
Thank you, Damien. Now returning to our discussion of how events played out, the United States decided to impose a naval blockade on Cuba in order to prevent additional missiles from reaching Cuba.
Tensions rose as the prospect of naval combat between Soviet missile carriers and blockade ships became imminent. Confrontation between these vessels would be an act of war. Swift diplomatic action had to be taken, or the world would be in jeopardy. To give our audience a frontline perspective, our military field reporter is standing by.
This is Leroy Tempest live at the scene at the USS Essex with Private First Class Quincy Smith. Quincy, how did you feel during the build-up to a potential naval conflict with Soviet forces?
I felt afraid. Any man will be afraid of potential death by vaporization. That's more reason why I'm serving my great country, so we could deal with distance and whatever the consequences might be. Thank you.
A noble remark. Now, with negotiations complete, what do operations consist of for the blockade?
Well, right now we are to continue the blockade. We got our reconnaissance aircraft monitoring the Soviet progress if the Soviets withdraw their missiles, and then we can, come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Quincy. Now back to the studio.
Thanks, Leroy. As Leroy mentioned, at the climax of the crisis, President John F. Kennedy and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev initiated diplomatic negotiations. Ultimately, the Soviets agreed to enforce the removal of missiles from Cuba in exchange for the withdrawal of the blockade and the guarantee of no future invasion of Cuba.
And that, audience, is the conflict in its entirety. We here at RCN are glad that peace prevailed. Until next time, this is Clark Venture.
And this is Harold Sterling signing off.